Delivery girl solves $500 million problem on her first try, after 100 experts failed the CEO's challenge. What if I told you that the one person who could save a $500 million empire was the delivery girl no one paid attention to? This isn't some made-up fairy tale. This is the real story of how 26-year-old Lara Evans, a delivery girl from the suburbs who could barely afford rent, walked into the CEO's office of one of America's biggest tech companies and changed everything, including his heart. If you love true stories with twists of fate and fortune, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, because what you're about to hear will blow your mind. Let me introduce you to Richard Grant. 55 years old, self-made billionaire, and founder of one of the biggest tech companies in the United States. This guy built his empire from nothing. Started in his garage, worked 20-hour days, and turned his small startup into a company worth billions. But here's the thing about being at the top. There's only one way to go, and that's down. Richard's company had just landed the biggest contract of their lives. A $500 million government project to build an AI system that would revolutionize how the military handled logistics. This wasn't just about money. This was about Richard's legacy, his reputation, everything he'd worked for his entire life. And then disaster struck. The AI system crashed during the trial run. Not just a small glitch, but a complete system failure. The kind of failure that makes headlines, tanks stock prices, and ruins careers overnight. Richard was staring at lawsuits, government investigations, and the very real possibility of losing everything he'd built. His company's stock dropped 15% in a single day. Board members were panicking. Investors were demanding answers. So what did Richard do? He did what any desperate CEO would do. He threw money at the problem. Lots of money. He hired over 100 experts. MIT graduates, Silicon Valley legends, consultants from Europe who charged more per hour than most people make in a month. These weren't just smart people. These were the smartest people money could buy. For 3 months, these experts worked around the clock. They rewrote code, redesigned systems, tried every solution in the book. Richard was spending a fortune, watching his company bleed money while these so-called geniuses scratched their heads and came up with nothing. Nothing worked. The government was getting impatient. The deadline was approaching. Richard would lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if this was how it all ended. 40 years of building, creating, innovating, all destroyed by one failed system. What would you do if everything you built was slipping away and no one could help? Tell us in the comments below. Like this video if you believe everyone deserves a second chance, even billionaires. And don't forget to subscribe. But help was on the way, in the most unexpected form. 2,000 miles away, in a tiny apartment in suburban Detroit, Lara Evans was setting her alarm for another day of deliveries. 26 years old, college dropout, and struggling to make ends meet. But here's what nobody knew about Lara. She was brilliant. Not just smart, but the kind of brilliant that sees patterns where others see chaos. She dropped out of college not because she couldn't handle the work, but because she couldn't handle the debt. Her family couldn't afford to keep her in school, so she did what she had to do. She got a job. For 3 years, she'd been working as a delivery driver for a logistics startup. Not exactly glamorous, but it paid the bills. Barely. Lara spent her free time learning everything she could about systems engineering. Free online courses, YouTube tutorials, library books, anything she could get her hands on. She had this amazing ability to understand how complex systems worked, how they could break, and more importantly, how they could be fixed. But having talent and getting the chance to use it, those are two very different things. On this particular Tuesday morning, Lara got an assignment that would change her life forever. She had to deliver specialized circuit components to Richard Grant's tech headquarters. High-security stuff, worth more than her car. When she arrived at the building, security almost didn't let her in. I mean, think about it from their perspective. Here's this young woman in a delivery uniform, driving a beat-up Honda, trying to get into one of the most secure buildings in the city. But the components were urgently needed, and after 20 minutes of phone calls and paperwork, they finally gave her a visitor's badge and directions to the R&D floor. The restricted R&D floor. As Lara walked through those halls, she couldn't help but stare. This place was like something out of a science fiction movie. Walls lined with monitors, engineers hunched over keyboards, the hum of servers processing millions of calculations per second. She dreamed of working in a place like this since she was 12 years old. Have you ever been underestimated because of your job or background? Share your story below. Subscribe if you've ever been the underdog. Like this video if you believe brilliance comes from the most unlikely places. What she saw in that lab would change everything. "Excuse me," Lara said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I couldn't help but notice the system architecture on your whiteboard, and I think I might know what's causing the crashes." The silence that followed was deafening. 12 pairs of eyes turned to stare at this young woman in a delivery uniform who'd just interrupted their million-dollar brainstorming session. One of the consultants, a man in a $1,000 suit, actually laughed out loud. "I'm sorry, who are you exactly?" I'm just here to deliver some components," Lara said, feeling her cheeks burn with embarrassment. "But I've been studying systems engineering, and I think the problem might be in the logic gate configuration." Another expert rolled his eyes. "Logic gates? Honey, this is advanced AI architecture, not some computer science 101 class." But Lara pressed on, her voice getting stronger. "The system is trying to process parallel data streams through a single verification node. It's like trying to merge 8 lanes of traffic into one eventually. Everything's going to back up and crash." The room erupted in laughter. Not friendly laughter, but the kind of condescending laughter that cuts deep. "Did she just compare our $500 million AI system to traffic?" someone whispered. "Security should have never let her up here," another voice added. Through it all, Richard Grant said nothing. He just stood there, arms crossed, watching Lara with those sharp gray eyes that had intimidated business rivals for decades. Lara felt her face burning with humiliation. She'd made a fool of herself in front of the most important people in the tech industry. These people would probably tell this story at conferences for years. The delivery girl who thought she could outsmart MIT graduates. "I should go," she said quietly, backing toward the door. "I'm sorry for interrupting." As she left the room, she could hear the laughter continuing behind her. Someone made a joke about ordering pizza next time they needed tech advice. But her words lingered in Richard's mind. Something about the way she'd explained the problem, the confidence in her voice despite her obvious nervousness, made him think. Has anyone ever mocked you for your ideas before they even listened? Tell us how you handled it. Like and subscribe if you believe in second impressions and hidden genius. Hours later, the CEO called an emergency meeting and made a shocking decision. That night, Richard Grant couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about what the delivery girl had said. Traffic lanes merging into one. It was such a simple way to explain a complex problem. Maybe too simple. At 3 a.m, he got out of bed and drove to the office. He stood in front of the whiteboard in the conference room, staring at the system architecture, and for the first time in months he saw it. The bottleneck. The single point of failure that was causing the entire system to crash. She'd been right. The next morning, Richard called security. "I need you to find the delivery girl who was here yesterday. Bring her back." His CTO looked at him like he'd lost his mind. "Richard, you can't be serious. She's a delivery driver." "She's the delivery driver who spotted a problem that our $100,000 consultants missed," Richard replied. When the other experts heard about Richard's decision, they were furious. The head consultant from MIT actually threatened to quit. "You're going to let some random delivery girl mess with our code?" he demanded. "She gets 1 hour," Richard said firmly. "Just one. No interference from anyone." When Lara got the call, she thought it was a prank. Why would the CEO of a billion-dollar company want to see her again? Especially after yesterday's humiliation. But she showed up anyway, driving her beat-up Honda back to the gleaming headquarters, her heart pounding with every step. Richard met her at the elevator. "I've been thinking about what you said yesterday. About the traffic lanes." "I'm sorry about that," Lara said quickly. "I shouldn't have interrupted your meeting." "You were right," Richard said simply. "Show me." He led her to a computer terminal in the lab. The same room where she'd been laughed at 24 hours earlier. "You have access to our simulation software," he said. 1 hour. Show me what you see." Lara's hands were shaking as she sat down at the terminal. This was it. Her one chance to prove she wasn't just some delivery girl with big dreams. She started by pulling up the system architecture, then opened the simulation software. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she traced the data pathways, identifying the bottlenecks, mapping out a solution. The experts watched from behind the glass wall, shaking their heads in disbelief. Some were making bets on how long it would take for her to give up. 45 minutes in, Lara was sweating. She'd identified the problem and designed a solution, but implementing it was more complex than she'd anticipated. With 10 minutes left, she made a final adjustment to the logic gate configuration, rerouted 3 data streams, and held her breath as she initiated the simulation. If you were given one shot to prove yourself, what would you do first? Hit that subscribe button if you believe in bold chances. Like the video if you think everyone deserves their hour. Then the screen flickered, and the system rebooted. The computer screen went black for what felt like forever. Lara stared at it, her heart pounding so hard she was sure everyone in the room could hear it. Then slowly, the system came back online. Green lights across the board. No error messages. No crashes. The AI system was running perfectly. But that wasn't the amazing part. The amazing part was what happened next. The system's performance metrics started climbing. Processing speed increased by 20%. Error rates dropped to almost zero. The AI was making predictions with 34% greater accuracy than it had ever achieved before. Lara had done more than just fix the problem. She'd made the entire system better. The room behind the glass wall had gone completely silent. The experts who'd been laughing at her 24 hours earlier were now staring at the screen in complete shock. The CTO was the first to speak. How is this possible? One of the MIT consultants was frantically checking the code, trying to understand what Lara had done. She completely restructured the data flow. This is brilliant. But it was Richard's reaction that mattered most. He was standing behind Lara, looking at the screen with tears in his eyes. For the first time in months, his company was safe. His employees would keep their jobs. His life's work wouldn't be destroyed. How did you know? He asked quietly. Lara turned around, still not quite believing what had just happened. I took an online course about system optimization. The instructor used a similar problem as an example. I remembered. An online course. A free online course had given her the knowledge to solve a problem that had stumped some of the smartest people in the world. The head consultant from MIT was shaking his head. I've been working with AI systems for 15 years, and I've never seen anything like this. She saw the forest instead of the trees, Richard said, his voice filled with admiration. We were so focused on the complex details that we missed the simple solution. Word spread through the building quickly. Within an hour, everyone knew about the delivery girl who'd saved the company. Some people were amazed. Others were embarrassed. But everyone was talking about Lara Evans. The government representatives who'd been threatening to cancel the contract were now praising the innovative solution. The stock price started climbing. The board members who'd been panicking were now calling Richard a genius for thinking outside the box. But Richard knew the truth. He wasn't the genius. Lara was. Have you ever solved something everyone else failed at? Tell us. We want to celebrate your wins. Subscribe if you believe true talent shines under pressure. Like if this story gave you goosebumps. Richard wasn't just impressed by Lara's technical skills. He was intrigued by the woman behind the mind. The next day, Richard called Lara into his office. Not the conference room where she'd been humiliated, but his personal office on the top floor of the building. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Awards and photos lined the walls. This was where billion-dollar deals were made, where the future of technology was decided. And here was Lara, still in her delivery uniform, sitting across from one of the most powerful men in America. I owe you an apology, Richard said. And a thank you. And probably a lot more than that. He offered her a consulting position with a 6-figure salary. More money than she'd ever imagined making in her entire life. But Lara hesitated. I don't want to be famous, she said. I just wanted to help. That response told Richard everything he needed to know about her character. In a world where everyone was chasing fame and fortune, here was someone who genuinely just wanted to make a difference. What do you want? He asked. I want to learn, Lara said. I want to work on problems that matter. I want to build things that help people. Over the next few weeks, Richard and Lara had meeting after meeting. What started as business discussions turned into long conversations about technology, innovation, and dreams. Lara told him about growing up in a family where education was a luxury they couldn't afford. About watching her parents work multiple jobs just to keep the lights on. About dreaming of working in tech while delivering packages to the companies she wished she could join. Richard found himself looking forward to their meetings. Not just because of her brilliant mind, but because of her perspective. She saw the world differently than anyone he'd ever met. She was genuine in a way that was rare in his world. No hidden agendas, no political games, just pure passion for solving problems and making things better. For the first time in years, Richard felt inspired. Not just about business, but about life. But Lara was changing too. Working with Richard, having access to resources she'd never dreamed of, being treated as an equal instead of just a delivery girl, it was transforming her confidence. She started contributing to other projects. Her solutions were always elegant, always effective, always focused on the real-world impact rather than just the technical achievement. Can love grow from admiration and trust? What do you think? If you believe in unexpected beginnings, like this video, don't forget to subscribe. But not everyone was happy about Lara's rise. Success always comes with a price, and for Lara, that price was jealousy. Some of the board members started whispering in hallways. They couldn't believe that Richard was giving so much authority to someone with no formal credentials, no college degree, no experience in corporate America. She's just a delivery girl, they said. This is embarrassing for the company. Others were more direct in their criticism. They claimed that Lara was a distraction, that she was manipulating Richard, that her quick success was somehow suspicious. The head consultant from MIT, still bitter about being shown up by someone who'd learned from free online courses, started spreading rumors. He suggested that maybe Lara had inside information, that maybe her solution was too good to be true. These weren't just idle gossip sessions. These were calculated attacks designed to undermine Lara's credibility and get her removed from the company. The worst part? Some of the rumors started making their way to tech blogs and industry publications. Articles questioning how a delivery driver could possibly solve problems that experts couldn't. Suggestions that there was more to the story than what the public knew. Lara read every article, every comment, every cruel joke on social media. She'd gone from being invisible to being the target of an entire industry's skepticism. Maybe I should quit, she told Richard one evening as they worked late in the lab. I'm causing too much trouble. You're not causing trouble, Richard said firmly. You're threatening people who've gotten comfortable being the smartest person in the room. But the pressure was getting to her. Lara had never asked for fame or attention. She just wanted to help solve a problem, and now she was being treated like some kind of fraud. The breaking point came when someone leaked a photo of her old apartment to a gossip blog, along with details about her family's financial struggles. The headline read, "From food stamps to fortune, the delivery girl's suspicious rise." That night, Lara packed her things and wrote a resignation letter. She was ready to go back to her old life, back to being invisible, back to being safe. Why do people try to destroy what they don't understand? Have you ever experienced this? Share below. Like if you've ever faced jealousy. Subscribe if you want to see how Lara fought back. The board underestimated Richard's loyalty and what he would do next. Richard found the resignation letter on his desk the next morning. Just a simple note. Thank you for believing in me. I'm sorry for the trouble I've caused. He immediately called Lara, but she didn't answer. He drove to her apartment, but she was already gone. For a moment, he wondered if he'd lost her forever. That afternoon, Richard called a press conference. The entire tech industry was watching, expecting him to announce some new product or acquisition. Instead, he did something that shocked everyone. I want to address the rumors and speculation about one of our team members, he began. Lara Evans solved a problem that our best experts couldn't solve. She did it in 1 hour. She did it with knowledge she gained from free online courses and pure determination. The room was silent. This wasn't what anyone expected to hear. The people attacking her aren't upset because she's unqualified, Richard continued. They're upset because she's more qualified than they are. She's upset because she proved that intelligence and creativity matter more than expensive degrees and fancy titles. He looked directly into the camera. Lara Evans is not a fraud. She's not a distraction. She's a genius, and anyone who can't see that is blind. But Richard wasn't done. He announced that he was promoting Lara to head of the new innovation lab, with a mandate to recruit and develop talent from unconventional backgrounds. We're going to find the next generation of innovators, he said. Not just in Ivy League schools, but in community colleges, online forums, and yes, even in delivery trucks. The press conference went viral. Within hours, it had millions of views. The tech world was divided. Some people applauded Richard for taking a stand. Others criticized him for being naive. But the message was clear. Richard Grant was willing to stake his reputation on defending Lara Evans. When Lara saw the press conference, She was hiding out in a small town 3 hours away, working at a diner and trying to figure out what to do with her life. She drove back to the city that night. Richard was waiting for her in the parking garage of the headquarters, sitting on the hood of his car like a teenager. "You came back," he said. "You defended me," she replied. "I'll always defend you," he said, and for the first time, they both realized that what they felt for each other went beyond professional respect. 1 year later, in the same lab where Lara had first proven herself, Richard got down on one knee. "You saved my company," he said. "But more importantly, you saved me. Will you marry me? Do you believe intelligence and love make a perfect match?" Subscribe if you believe in power couples. Like this video if this part made you smile. But even happy endings come with one final twist. 5 years later, Lara Evansgrant is no longer just known as the delivery girl who solved a $500 million problem. She's become something much more powerful, a symbol of what's possible when talent meets opportunity. The innovation lab she runs has discovered dozens of brilliant minds in unexpected places. A janitor who revolutionized data storage. A grocery store clerk who developed breakthrough algorithms. A retired teacher who solved cybersecurity problems that had stumped government agencies. But Lara's greatest achievement isn't technical, it's personal. She and Richard launched a scholarship fund for young inventors from underprivileged backgrounds. They've funded over 1,000 students, giving them the education opportunities that Lara never had. "I don't want anyone to have to choose between their dreams and their family's survival," Lara said in a recent interview. The story of the delivery girl who saved a tech empire has been told and retold countless times. Books have been written, documentaries made, and there's even talk of a movie deal. But the real story isn't about one moment of genius. It's about persistence, about believing in yourself when no one else does, about having the courage to speak up even when you're the only one in the room without a fancy degree. Lara still remembers what it felt like to be invisible, to be dismissed, to be told that she didn't belong. That's why she spends her time now making sure other people don't have to experience that same feeling. "Intelligence isn't about where you went to school," she says. "It's about how you see problems and how creatively you solve them." Some of the smartest people I know never set foot in a college classroom. Richard, now in his 60s, says that marrying Lara was the best business decision he ever made. "She doesn't just solve problems," he says. "She sees possibilities that the rest of us miss." Their company is now worth more than ever, but they measure success differently than most billionaires. They count the number of lives they've changed, the number of dreams they've made possible, the number of young people who now believe that their background doesn't determine their future. Lara still drives herself to work sometimes, though now it's in a Tesla instead of a beat-up Honda. She says it keeps her grounded, reminds her where she came from. "I was never really just a delivery girl," she says. "I was always an engineer. I just needed someone to give me a chance to prove it." What's the biggest dream you've ever had? And what's stopping you from chasing it? Thank you for watching this incredible true story. If this inspired you, hit that like button, subscribe for more amazing underdog stories, and comment your thoughts below. You never know, your story might be next. Remember, sometimes the person who changes the world isn't the one in the spotlight. Sometimes, she's the one delivering the parts to fix it. The next time you meet someone who seems ordinary, remember Lara's story. You never know who might be the next person to save the day. Because brilliance doesn't always come with a diploma. Sometimes it comes with a delivery uniform and a dream that refuses to be ignored. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.